Recording in progress.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining today's call. We appreciate you being here. For journalists on the call, please make sure that your camera and microphone are turned off so that the speaker focus can work properly. Questions will be taken from the media at the conclusion of the call, and we'll explain how to do that a little bit later on. Commissioner Fried, the floor is yours to open.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining us on this very important conversation. I know a lot of kids and their parents and teachers are really worried about going back to school this year because of COVID. There has been a lot of conversations about masks in school, but unfortunately, most of them haven't heard from the people that these rules will be mostly affecting, such as our kids. That's why I am so glad and so honored to have Lila Hartley here with us here today. Lila wrote a letter to her school board, which is Duval County, advocating for a mask mandate to help keep her and her 10-year-old brother safe. So hi, Lila. I want to thank you for joining me here today and also for speaking out on behalf of your brother and others during these very trying times. And I know my niece is 12 and my nephew is 9. They're going through the same conversations, as well as my stepsons are 11, 10, and 6. And I know these are conversations that we have at home as well. So very proud of you to be speaking out on behalf of so many of our kids all across the state. So I just kind of want to just open it up, Lila, and say, can you tell us a little bit about why you thought it was important to write to the school board?
Of course, thank you for having me. I wrote this letter because of my brother. He is 10 years old and is not eligible to get the vaccine. And I just don't want him or any other kids that can't get vaccinated to get sick at school, especially if it's like a place that means so much to us.
Absolutely. And what, have you had any response back from the schools?
Not from specific schools, but I did get a response from one of the board members.
Yeah, what did they tell you?
They told me that they were taking this seriously and that they were listening to the science and like that.
Awesome. And do you think it may make it harder for some kids who want to wear masks if their friends aren't wearing them too, because they're not required? Sometimes it can be hard to do the right thing when the people around you aren't always doing the right thing.
Yeah, it's definitely hard. So
you're good. You're good. Well, you are good. So why do you choose to be wearing a mask even though that you're vaccinated?
I choose to wear a mask because even though I'm vaccinated, I can still get sick, and everyone hates being sick. That is not a good feeling. And also my younger brother, I don't want to get him sick if I get it because I wasn't wearing a mask. And keep my friends and other students keep my other friends and people from getting sick.
Well, that is awesome. And taking care of, being a good big sister and taking care of your little brother and the rest of your friends. That is just so awesome for that you're doing this. And so what message do you want to share with everyone who might be listening here today?
I want to share that masks help us be safe, everyone, unvaccinated and vaccinated. And that enforcing these masks will really help keep students and staff and families safe from this virus that is just so terrible. And yeah.
Do you have friends that have gotten sick last couple of weeks?
Yeah, I have.
How old are they that they're getting sick?
They're most of my friends are 12 or 11, but a lot of them had birthdays to turn 12 this summer, and one of my friends was so close to being able to get their vaccine and then got sick last week.
They doing okay?
I think, yeah, some of my other friends saw her at the orientation, so it's good.
Good. That's good to hear. Well, I can't thank you enough, Lila, for joining us here this morning and being so brave and speaking out. And so I'm honored to help spread your message today to other kids across the state of Florida and to their parents. And knowing that there's kids like you out there who are just trying to do the right thing to protect their friends and their siblings and their parents. And for those who still have grandparents around, making sure that they're protecting their grandparents as well. So now I think that we have time for just a few questions, and I know that we'll have to let Lila go as she has a big day tomorrow starting 7th grade. That is very exciting. I remember starting 7th grade. I was a little nervous, but I don't know. Do you start it? Are you already in the middle school, or are you just going into middle school now in 7th grade?
I've been in 6th grade is when I started middle school.
And back when, not going to age myself, but back in the day when I was starting 7th grade, it was the start of middle school. So it was a big transition from elementary school to middle school. So at least you got 1 year under your belt. And so that's awesome. So at this time, I guess, Franco, we will open up for some questions.
Yes, for journalists who have questions on the call, please go ahead and Tony, just as you did, please enter either your question into the chat or just let us know in the chat that you have a question and you'd like to ask it. This is from Tony Pipitone to Commissioner. Are you now saying you favor mask mandates for students at all schools, and do you favor mask mandates anywhere else?
Yeah, so I have been very consistent. This has got to be local control, local school boards, local county and city commissions, because they know what's right for their own communities. But of course, we also need to be listening to the science. The science and the CDC is recommending, again, everybody who is going, to be, even if you're vaccinated or unvaccinated, when you're going inside, to be wearing a mask. And that is no different than our schools, and especially the 12 and under who can't get vaccinated. So it is really important that we are letting our local school boards and allowing them to do what is right, which is, of course, wearing masks for our kids inside of the classrooms. And so for everybody else, again, it is about local control. Every community is different. We have a mask mandate for the Department of Agriculture. I know what's best for the people that are working inside the department, and really hoping that more businesses also step up and start really enforcing, in their own businesses and making those business decisions and doing what's right for the people.
Thank you, Commissioner. Laura Castles asks if if Lila's letter could be made available, and we will try to do that when we can. Laura also asks how many school districts are now defying the executive order against masks.
I mean, we're seeing all over the state, school boards making that really, having those conversations. And so we've seen, I want to say anywhere between 5 and 10 last week that had some type of mask mandates. Right now they have an opt-out option. I know Dade County is still making a decision the next week or so, because they're starting a little bit later in their schools. I think their school doesn't start for another few weeks. But we are also in communication with the White House. And so I need our school boards to understand, that you're making a decision, to be, more, whether to follow the governor and to put political and potential ramifications on the line, or do what's best for the health and safety of our children. And when in conversations with the White House, we are working through that if in fact the governor does take away funding from the schools, that we are going to figure out how to get our school districts backed up, because we can't be harming our kids. They aren't the enemy here. The virus is the enemy, and we know how to beat this. And the fact that we are seeing our pediatric hospitals filling up is unacceptable. So we need our school board members to be stepping up, do what's right for your communities, do what's right for our kids. Don't focus on the political and financial ramifications. We will get your back because you are doing what's right for our children.
Thank you, Commissioner. And a reminder for journalists on the line that the Lila's letter can be found in the NBC News article linked at the bottom of the chat. Also, a reminder, if you have a question, please go ahead and either type your question into the chat or type that you'd like to ask a question to be recognized. The next question comes from Sydney Bowles, and Lila, this question is for you. What are your feelings about going back to school during this pandemic?
Well, it's definitely a lot different from previous years of going to school. It's definitely a little bit scary because I don't know what it's going to be like at school with masks and everything, and whether I am going to be in danger of getting my family or myself sick. So it's definitely a little bit nervous.
For sure, we hear that, Lila. The next question comes from Laura Castles. She has two questions. The first, any update on financial assistance that may come from the feds for districts that will lose funding for the governor? And also, are vaccines required among teachers? She presumes not.
So we have been talking, we had a lengthy conversation with the White House on Friday, and we are circling back today. We told them what the situation here is in the state of Florida. And of course, they want to protect our schools and our public education system here in the state of Florida. So we are working through that and figuring out exactly a protocol in place. But I certainly hope that the governor understands that these school boards are doing what they believe is in the right interest of their kids. And that is their constitutional duty, is to protect our kids when they're inside of our care, inside of the classroom during the day. And that this stick is unacceptable. This authoritarian, it's either his way or the highway, and at the expense of our children. You're not hurting the school board members by taking away funding. You're hurting Lila and her friends and making sure that they have their teachers and they have a productive school year. So I am pleading with the governor, back down on this one. This is one that you see the polls. The parents want to make sure that their kids are being protected in the schools, and parents right now are having to make very tough decisions as our numbers continue to increase. Our hospitalization numbers were again today a record number. Our school board members are just trying to do right by their responsibility of protecting our kids.
Thank you, Commissioner. Here's another question from Laura Castles, who definitely wins the question award for the day. Just on volume. As an attorney, will you express your opinion on the constitutionality of the executive order?
I have said that I do not believe that it's constitutional. As not just an attorney, but as a statewide elected, that the decision of appropriations is left to the legislature, and that that's first and foremost as far as appropriations. And it is in our Constitution that our school boards are given the authority to protect and instructive for the health and wellness of our children and to provide a healthy, safe environment. So I do believe that there's a constitutionality question in place for sure. And so I've made that known as of last week, and I continue to stand by it today.
Thank you, Commissioner. If there are any additional questions from journalists on the line, please go ahead and type your question into the chat box now, or let us know in the chat box that you have a question that you'd like to ask and you'll be recognized. We'll wait for any additional questions at this moment. Laura has followed up with a question. Are you aware of vaccination mandates for teachers?
I would have to do some research. I think that there was conversations about some of that. I'm not quite sure if in fact anybody has followed through in mandating vaccines for their schools, teachers.
And our final question then comes from Mike Kaminsky at First Coast News. Should school buses have rules for masks and or 6 feet apart seats?
Hey, Mike, that's one of the questions and concerns that we need to recognize is that, with the school year starting, it's not just about the classroom, it's about the transportation of our kids into schools, and that those school buses are jam-packed. We know that. And so without additional resources to be able to, rent or purchase new buses, that's gonna be a problem. And even if you're opening up the windows, you're still everybody's sitting on top of each other, and that's a concern. And I think that the governor's executive order would, in essence, cover both the school buses as well as inside of the classroom. But I can definitely follow back up on our interpretation of that.
Commissioner, that concludes our time for questions, so you are free to close.
All right. Well, again, Lila, thank you for being incredible. Just amazing. You've got a bright future ahead of you. And all I can say is that keep doing good. Keep standing up for what you believe in. This is just the first of many, I know, in your future of always just kind of standing up and protecting your family and your friends. And for everybody out there who's listening to Lila's story, make sure you're protecting our kids. We know that this Delta variant is impacting our youth that we didn't see last year in our wave. And so I'm asking our parents out there, even if you're in school districts that have an opt-out, please send your children in masks. This is something that is going to protect them, protect our communities, protect you, protect our grandparents and everybody else around us. It's a mask. We put our kids in seatbelts every day. We make sure that they are taking their vitamins every day, that they get vaccines when they start the school year between mumps and measles. Like, we know that. So if our kids, 12 and under can't get the vaccine yet, so please go and have them in masks, protect them, and do what's right on behalf of them. And so, Lila, thank you again for standing up. You are incredible. And I know that you got a bright future ahead of you.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Lila. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone. That concludes today's press call. If you have additional questions, you may please email them to comms@fdacs.gov. And a replay of this Zoom will be available on our Facebook page at facebook.com/FDACS. Thank you very much.